All right, Cowboys fans, welcome into How About Wow, where every day on the channel we talk about the Cowboys getting back to the glory days. An incredible day of defensive linemen and linebacker workouts at the 2026 NFL Draft Combine. There are a number of developments with how you can look at the board as it relates to the Cowboys. One linebacker who might have put himself out of reach of anybody outside the top 10. Cult figure in West Texas might have moved up an entire round or more at linebacker. We have two short arm hellraisers, a joker, and at least one coach who could not contain his excitement at the combine. But there is literally so much to talk about on this epic day at the combine that saw so many exciting players, improve their draft chances and elevate themselves into the collective consciousness of the NFL draft and its super fans. Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Chats, Dawson and New Bear here on the channel. Tell us in the comments down below what you think of these prospects. Let's talk ball with you throughout the day. Please, if you can find it in your heart to do it, like that video, consider subscribing. And we're going to talk Cowboys football with you here all offseason going into training camp, buddy. How we doing today?
So excited. I can't even tell you. I'm working on a little blog action to get back into the site stuff and the content ecosystem. Everyone using different buzzwords like, bubble butt and ankle flexion. How about content ecosystem on the engagement farm? Sonny Styles, man, for the win.
Yeah. Let's start there. I'm trying to get his vertical leap up. We are dealing with a little bit of buffering here on Cowboys Twitter, but yeah, he went 43.5 inches. I think that's just like a half inch short of the all-time record. There are just so many teams that need defense, and there aren't the quarterbacks or really the offensive players that teams will feel like, well, we got to get this guy now. Only one quarterback, right. Maybe Mawanoa and Jeremiah Love. I just think chances are really slim. Jesus, look at this guy that Sonny Styles is available for the Cowboys as well.
Yeah, the one off of this is that same NFL files. Did you catch them posting his basketball highlights where it literally it looks like AI? I mean, he looks like LeBron. He's on there dunking on everyone and just swatting stuff off the top of the square. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then you see that, a couple years later, 40 pounds heavier, he grew an inch too, right? So, buddy, hard not to like this guy. I'm saying, Brian Urlacher 2.0. Bears took Urlacher at 9 25 years ago. I don't even think 9's a starting line for this guy.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to see him going to the Jets, but I was thinking, like, if you're the Jets right now and you have Styles and you have Downs, you have Bailey and you have Bain, I don't think you have a right answer, and I don't think I'd clearly believe that one is more likely to have a great NFL career than the other. I think for the Cowboys, it comes down to, if you want Sonny Styles, and here I think I'm going to have his 40 time here for us, the 4.4940. He's just flying. Then you're going to see Reese, and then you're going to see Elam-Orr in here, the three fastest 40 times. There goes Reese. But I think if you're the Cowboys and you're seriously thinking about this, and you fall in love with Sonny Styles, it's got to be 12 and 20 up to Cleveland for 6, and then you still can't be totally sure.
Right. This board is going to fall some kind of way. And you talk about people having a day. How about Arvell Reese? People wondering, is he an off-ball linebacker? Is he an edge? What do you see in him? What system does he fit? How about he said both, and whatever that young man wants to play, you just let him, because he went 4.46 I mean, like, when you start talking about these dudes at this size with these movement skills and scheme versatility, the neat thing is there's more than one of them. The thing that makes your gut turn is if you fall in love with one of them and the Jets pull the trigger at 2, right? Because we've seen the same way people are talking about Carnell Tate versus Jordan Tyson at the wide receiver slot, the same way people have talked about Caleb Downs from 2 to 12 and falling to the Cowboys, right, with their first rounder. This is going to be, I mean, the next couple weeks, my goodness, and those first 72 hours of free agency, to your point about what the Jets do at 2 or going up to 6 and not even guaranteeing it, if someone, it's an if-then thing. If someone goes and signs, Devin Lloyd, they're not drafting Sonny Styles. We don't think, right?
No.
if someone signs DeMario Davis, if the Cowboys pick up Quincy Williams, they might just need to keep it moving.
Yeah, and to that point, what we heard about Nakobe Dean yesterday on the show, Clarence Hill had the initial report the Cowboys were interested. Joseph Hoyt followed that up. He joined us in the morning news. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I would hope that if they do sign Nakobe Dean, that doesn't eliminate them from taking a first-round linebacker, but Hoyt certainly believed that. And I guess at this point, I'm hoping the Cowboys don't get Nakobe Dean, because that would be pairing Dean with Overshown, two guys that have missed just so many football games that would really leave you thin and vulnerable at linebacker, unless you just nail your budget veteran picks or dominate a day 3 pick on it.
I just went through a mock draft, just kind of goofing around, and I was like, well, what happens, speaking of if this, then that, what happens if I took a position at every damn pick? People do all kinds of crazy shit right now, and you see it all over Twitter with, different people saying different things about it. But without even trying too hard, I ended up with McNeil Warren, with Thieneman, and Kilgore. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, is that realistic? Probably not. But if that's how the board falls, like, what's bad about that? Like, if you drafted we've talked about taking the 2 corners, right? Particularly like hedging a bet with McCoy, who, talk about terrifying, 400 plus days, and his body still doesn't feel right. I know you want the friendly confines, but like, pro day or bust for that guy. And look, man, take your time, get it right, go and show out. I hope he does and runs in the 4.4s and goes as high as he can. But if the Cowboys pull the trigger on McCoy at 12, and he falls there, and Delane, Terrell, if they were to move down and take Cisse, and like, there's so many good players. And I think you and I have talked a lot about this, and I think it starts with the quarterback at 1-1 that people are starting to finally pick holes in, with Mendoza. And are the Raiders really just every mock draft, every single one? I have not seen one, of you, that isn't 1-1 Mendoza.
Oh, they're all one. Yeah, they're all Mendoza at 1.
Every single one. But like, starting there, is he truly elite? And is that the quarterback class? We don't believe the quarterback class is elite. Like, and the quarterback class may not even be deep, but almost every other position, if it doesn't have like truly elite, it has real depth. And then you go, well, look at what Sonny Styles and CJ Allen. Well, he didn't run. What's he going to run at his pro day? But look at what Hill put up. Look at what Golday, and look at how you're going to get to Jacob Rodriguez acquitting himself. This is going to be the Bill Belichick trade down draft wet dream.
Here is Jacob Rodriguez running out of Texas Tech. It's incredible if you consider what the knocks were about him, what he managed to put together. He scored an unofficial 923 relative athletic score out of a possible 10, ranked 249 out of 3,215 linebackers, graded from 87 to 2026. I think this might be his 4.6 140. He also ran a 4.57. He led the linebacker group in the 3-cone and the shuttle, and reached a top speed of 18.4 during the backpedal and react drill, the fastest by any linebacker over the last 4 years. Traveled nearly a full mile per hour faster than the next closest linebacker, who was Arvell Reese at 17.49. So, Wolchuk has been telling us in the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 weekdays, every day on your home of the Cowboys, 105 through the Fan, he would take Rodriguez at 20. And I thought up until yesterday that would be overdrafting the guy. I don't know what the concern is now, or what would prevent teams from legitimately considering him in round 1.
Yeah, this is what the Underwear Olympics are all about, right? Where you look at these guys and you say, okay, well, yeah, he put all that stuff up, but I mean, did you really look at this class? This might be the fastest linebacker class ever. I mean, you got little dudes running fast, you got big dudes running fast, you got mostly big dudes running faster than the little dudes. And then you go length and you go hand size, and you get your chart out and you say, they're all Bruce Feldman freaks in their own way. And it's like, what is your scheme fit? What is your positional value? And that word is probably trending for all the wrong reasons right now. The same way they've been talking about running backs forever, inside linebackers right there with them in terms of, oh, you can't take Sonny Styles inside the top 5. It's too high of a pick. The draft starts with Cleveland at 6. Bro, if he's the best player, take him 1-1. Like seriously, if you forget what I feel or what you feel or what the consensus is about to become about what the Raiders should do with the quarterback. Like, if he's not him, go find someone who might be and become. And that's the thing about Sonny Styles is he gets better year over year. His best ball is still in front of him. Go all the way down to the bottom of the first round, 20-year-old turning 21, Caden McDonald. You're saying the same thing, right? Versus some of the plug-and-play guys that we've talked about, like Mesidor and others who are much, much older, almost like, they're a whole different class of player, right? Like they wouldn't have been friends in high school because they didn't go to high school at the same time. And when you unpack Jacob Rodriguez, I mean, dude, 13 forced fumbles, 12 passes defensed, double-digit TFLs, putting him at quarterback, right? High school quarterback, putting him at quarterback to try to get him in the Heisman race. Him not getting invited to New York was a travesty. Should have won the Heisman Trophy. And when you unpack him in totality, you go, is 12 too rich? Not especially if you're the Cowboys and you fall off a cliff after that in terms of picks.
He can do it all, man. 28% pressure rate. You mentioned some of the stats that he put up. Just a really, really good linebacker. And I know a lot of Texas Tech fans are excited about him making himself at worst a second-round pick, but I think that'd be underdrafting. Okay, let's go to another linebacker prospect that we got to put on our radar here. Jake Golday, the Cincinnati Bearcats, 6'4", 240. This is really going to take some great scouting to determine exactly where you want to put him. But the only linebacker prospect since 2015 to have a run defense grade over 90, coverage grade over 80, and an athletic score over 9.5 is Golday. Had an incredible college season. I'm just not sure what to make of him, but all of his production is coming downhill. He's close to the line of scrimmage. He's hunting the quarterback or the running back. He was just like an outside linebacker, edge rusher. Wasn't great at that. They moved him to stand-up linebacker, but I still feel like there's a ton of outside linebacker things happening on his 2025 tape. So I don't know what the perfect fit is for Jay Golday. This is where Newbear, I need you to flesh out this picture for us.
Well, what's really funny is he's an Arlington guy, Tennessee, not Texas. And he started at Central Arkansas. And when you think about this, this is a guy who comes from a family who's it? Lander Barton, here in Pittsburgh, they talk all the time about how they love bloodlines. And, guys, think about the Matthews family or, whoever your favorite football playing family is. And this is a guy, his whole family basically played. This is like, Drake, FCS Drake May kind of thing. And he is a dude who got a phone call from Cincinnati and makes the jump to the Big 12. And he basically wastes, no time proving that he can hang with the big boys. This is like a little bit like the linebacker or defensive end linebacker, hybrid type equivalent of a Mansour Delane making the jump from Virginia Tech to the SEC and some of these other guys we've seen move around where not that that's the same one-to-one Central Arkansas to the Big 12 like Virginia Tech to LSU, but in terms of dudes stepping in and acquitting themselves so well that they actually leave so few doubts that, to your point, the question is it almost like a too much, too soon expectation type thing where it might be better for him, for the team to say, hey, young man, this is what you do. Let's get you up to speed, and then let's build over time because he's shown that adaptability. And the Christian Parker thing where you're talking about these scheme demons and the traits, he's a guy who, basically no stars to his name coming out and put himself in this position where we're talking about him, with everyone else, who deserves to move up and fight, to get as high as they can. If they take this guy, if they were to trade down and he were to be a benefit of that, you would love the move.
All right. Okay, let's jump over here to Anthony Hill. We're approaching the halfway point of the show, and there's just so much to talk about.
It's unbelievable, man.
Here's Hill, and he ends up running a 4.52 here, the Texas Longhorn. Absolute tackling machine. He's going to help you blitz. He's going to snuff out screens. He's going to find the running back. For the Cowboys, I've heard they prefer C.J. Allen over him, but this would be an instant massive upgrade to your defense. I have not seen his ability in coverage. Watching his tape, I'm not saying he can't do it, and I guess his analytical scores suggest that he is pretty good at doing it. But I think there's a lot of teams out there that would be super excited about getting an Anthony Hill on their football team and figuring it out.
I mean, think about this, dude. When he went 4.52, I'm sitting here going, man, what's the alphabet going to do here? Because we had to wait for Sonny Styles, right? And this is a dude who, excuse me, is that sideline to sideline guy, downhill with violence, bad intentions, quick trigger, all those things. And everyone's talked about his natural pass rush ability. What I keep finding, the deeper I look, is that his coverage responsibilities at UT were more extensive than people think. And that he's got that athleticism. He's got the fundamentals in the footwork. He's got the long arms to disrupt. He's got, fluidity. He's, again, back to the buzzwords. It's like, what do you want? Like, what are the bullet points on your board? When you look at a dude like this, it becomes really, really difficult to say, or I'm sorry, to not say and to not feel like, yeah, I can coach that, right? Because what do we talk all the time about, like quarterbacks, pitchers, shooters, whatever sport it is? Like real good coaches, they see dudes who have all the requisite traits, right? And they go, well, I can teach the skills. You can't do it the other way around. Like a dude who shoots really well but can't run and jump at all ain't going to play, right? Like a dude who can throw the ball the country mile. I mean, think about how Joe Flacco was viewed coming out. Think about how we're viewing him all these years later in this free. You have to do certain things to mitigate what those guys cannot do. Maybe they can't guard anyone on defense, right? Maybe they're like Joe Milton and they have no touch, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you about, Drew Aller and some of these other big arm guys, later in the next couple of days. But Anthony Hill, at first I was like, man, like, don't they already kind of have him? Like maybe the broken version, and we need to find out what Agent Zero really is. But then you start thinking about, like, he molded his game after his. Like, in a lot of ways, he looks up to that dude. And if you were starting to get Demo and Hill together, like, I mean, can he wear 0.5? Can they do decimals on the jerseys?
That'd be a lot of fun. It'll be really interesting to see what kind of linebackers Christian Parker wants to bring in, and if he takes one from the draft, exactly what kind of skill sets they're looking for. But there's no doubt about it. Anthony Hill, there's a lot to like there. Okay, maybe my biggest thing that I've been proud of myself for so far in my draft scouting, and I'm getting kind of a late start on this. A lot of my coworkers have been like trying to be media scouts for years, and it's been fun to observe them. This year, I finally jumped in with both feet and said, "Okay, let's do this." Yesterday, I'm watching this Kyle Lewis. Okay, he's blowing up the combine. He ran a 4.54 in the 40. This is his 3-cone, where he had the second best 3-cone. And after sitting down watching him last night, after getting pretty good exposure to him yesterday at the combine, I'm watching him carry tight ends. And then I'm seeing him deep downfield, breaking up plays like he's the deep safety. Pitt linebacker, 6 foot 220. They lined him up all over the field. But as I'm sitting there watching this, I'm like, man, he kind of moves and plays much more like a nickel safety. Elam-Orr at 215. If Lewis is at 220, so I'm thinking, man, this guy is much more of a safety than a will linebacker to me, at least at the NFL level. Maybe at the collegiate level, playing at Pitt, you're big enough to be, a small linebacker. But then I saw people actually talking about it this morning on NFL Draft Twitter that maybe this is your jumbo size nickel safety. Newbear, what do you think?
Dude, he's awesome. I love this guy. And I thought I saw him at 5'11", but I guess they gave him the benefit of the doubt, and they clicked him off at 6 foot 220. To your point, bro, he hopped almost 40 inches, and he broad jumped almost 11 feet. He went under 7 on the 3-cone, 4.26 on the 20-yard shuttle, and he had good bursts too, right? He was 1.58 10-yard split on a 4.53 official 40. And when you start unpacking guys, and you go, okay, he's so much smaller than Sonny Styles. Yeah, but how much smaller is he than Jacob Rodriguez? How much smaller is he? He's bigger than Torian York. He's bigger than some of the other guys. And so sub-package linebacker, special teams all day. The question becomes, how does what he did at the Senior Bowl translate? To your point about Pitt, level of competition, ACC is just not as good as the SEC and the Big Ten week in and week out. You could talk about any peak 2 or 3 teams, every year. And so, like, when you go through a lot of tape of Pitt guys, you wonder, like, why don't they win more games? Because they have so many dudes who are part of these, NFL combine and draft conversations, they very much are Penn State light. Don't know how much, you like James Franklin, but if you didn't like James Franklin, you probably don't like Pat Narduzzi. The guy, like, are you getting less out of more, than some of the other dudes, and then the NIL stuff and, guys in and out. It's a challenge with that program. But one thing they do is they get guys ready to play for the NFL. They get guys the most out of their guys, like Kyle Lewis. He absolutely wrecked the individual stuff down at the Senior Bowl, particularly in coverage. And in today's NFL, I think one of the things I've been talking to you a lot about is it's so hard sometimes to say Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Kyle Lewis at linebacker. It's so hard sometimes because the edges just get more alien, right?
Mm-hmm.
The edges just get more freaky, and you get more of those small forwards and power forwards, from basketball coming over and playing. There's a 6'7" linebacker in this draft. And when you go through evaluations on dudes like this, it just comes back to how good of a football player is. And if you're,
I think he's really good, man. His recognition is elite, and all the things you said at Pittsburgh being true. He even stood out amongst those guys.
Right.
Preparation nut, showing up at 5:45 every morning, trying to find tape or trying to help the coaches with the install. I think that stuff really matters for this coaching staff.
The last little bullet point that I was just going to say is if you're a Jacob Rodriguez fan and someone were to, overdraft that young man, and, with great mustache comes great power, we obviously would love to see him with a star on the side of his head. But this dude is a pretty good, reasonable facsimile of that in terms of sub package. You're going to get special teams. And then it's like with Christian Parker and all the protection that they have with those three $20 million defensive tackles. This is a dude that if you keep him clean, you could start having very serious conversations about guys like Patrick Queen at his very best, which is a Robin to a Batman and an all-pro 2 ceiling.
Man, that's awesome. Okay, before we talk about these edges and these defensive tackles, Shotty gave us some intel at the podium this week at the 2026 NFL Draft Combine. Here he is talking about what they are looking for, and I'm going to jump ahead in this cut so we don't have to sit through 20 seconds of nonsense. Here's Shotty and the kind of edges they want.
For these outside linebackers, for us, the first thing that they're going to do is, number one, set the edge in the running game. Number two, they're going to affect the damn quarterback, okay? And then occasionally they'll drop. The really good ones, you don't drop them very often, but you do it a little bit. And so what you want to see with guys like that, which we saw this year with Donovan, was when they drop, are they comfortable? Do they have movement skills? Do you see them? They look like a fish out of water. And all those answers for him were very, very positive.
So, I think we got to keep this in mind, New Bear, as we're looking at these players. I don't think like the blur off the edge who's going to quarterback hunt and be a designated pass rusher is too high on their priority list.
Right. And not at 20, maybe when you start talking about, day 2 and into day 3, where you can just talk about situational guys. I mean, who you're really talking about is Cassius Howell. Where this conversation really goes and where it gets challenging is him and Bain would be the 2 shortest arm guys like of all time, at least since 2003. Way shorter than Micah. I mean, this would be a good place where if you were ever going to show Micah Parsons hitting McGlinchey with a hump move and how a dude who goes 6'3" with like 31.5-inch arms, or a dude who goes, 6'2" with 30 7/8 inch arms can get up under a dude who's 6'8" and hit him with that Reggie White, classic stuff. And that's the kind of thing that a guy like Cassius Howell is made of. And that's the kind of thing that you have to ask yourself, do you care about 7/8 of an inch, half an inch? I mean, I know size matters and all puns or cliches or joking and tomfoolery sophomorically aside is like, do you just believe the dude can do all the things that you're going to ask him to do? Right? Because if Micah Parsons could figure it out, and yeah, he went 4.39, and a guy like what did Howell go 4.6 on the nose, I think. Back to back. The other thing is there's so many guys, right? So it's like if you do have that doubt and if you do get that pit in your tum-tum, there's a dude that you can move to that you don't have to really blink an eye. The question is like, are you pounding the table for this guy or not? And if you're not, just keep it moving. There's so many dudes. Like if you want a dude who's everything, B+ at everything, not an A+ at anything, there is that guy, and he's going to be tall and long, and there's probably a little dude, just like we went through with Kyle Lewis, right? Like whatever it is that you're hunting for, it exists in this draft. Have a plan, execute the plan.
With Bain at 12, I'm very confident in it because of how powerful he is and how natural his leverage is because of his size and he's short but has just incredible leg strength. And I think tackles have to respect his power so much that it kind of mitigates his lack of great arm strength. I don't know how I feel about Cassius Howell. Brian Broaddus, former Cowboys scout, he's at the combine. He is Cassius Howell's biggest advocate, I feel like, and is even predicting right now the Cowboys will be picking him at 20. But to me, arm length is more important. The lighter you get, and the less power that you have, and I just don't have the confidence that the Cassius Howell. And then you talk about what it does take to be an elite pass rusher, and there's a lot of ways around that, dude. And Howell has a great Euro step that he combines with a double club. He comes double club at the same time he's juking you, and it's great. But I don't think there would have ever been an elite pass rusher with this short of arms that I'm aware of in the NFL history.
No, and as they make those lists and you get screen mogged, I mean, even Kyle Hamilton, right? I mean, Sonny Styles got him. Sonny Styles got CeeDee Lamb. Like, you're going to get got at the Underwear Olympics. That's part of going through the whole process. It's part of why, I'm going to talk and continue to repeat myself about either authenticating or just maybe getting back in there one more time, what you think you thought you saw on tape, and the production and, the reasons why. Like, for me, I'm willing to look past, or I'm willing to stay pounding the table for guys that just bring it and where you're not questioning the effort and the intensity. I have less concern in my draft room and with my draft board with a guy like Cassius Howell, who plays with passion and who, like, people don't question whether or not he's going to bring it every down, versus some of these guys who are 6 inches taller and 60 pounds heavier and all this other stuff. And you go, well, why haven't they done anything? Or why did they get worse? And you go, okay, the coaching's a part of that. Injuries are a part of that. And the same way that, Banks, and some of these other guys, like, God don't make many of them like that, right? Was the tweet that was kind of going around where, when you go a certain height and a weight with it and you move a certain way, and then you're in this kind of sea of 4'6", 4'5'9", 4'6'5", and then you add 6 inches and 60 pounds and a dude is in that same RAS, like, it's tough. But
it's so hard. It's an art. There's a lot of bad players in college, guys that if they were on the field might get you beat by themselves. And Howell, I think, piled up most of his production in the course of like 3 games. So there was 9 or 10 games for the Aggies where at least he didn't put up any counting stats of record.
Yeah, there's some stuff. I think we're going to require a deeper dive. And we're going to have to, kind of hit him with the gladiator. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to do a little, let's do a mock draft Monday, Cassius Howell.
Okay. I'm into that. Now, as far as the edges go, guys you'd want to trade up for, maybe it's Arvell Reese, maybe it's David Bailey. And when he stepped up here, this is just exactly what you're looking for, and kind of what you and Clayton Adams are talking about with these guys who used to be playing basketball 20 years ago, now finding a tremendous amount of success in the NFL. This guy just totally looks the part. 12 and 20. If Bailey is falling, I think he might be my favorite defensive player to target in a trade up.
Yeah, he measured 6'4", and he ran at 251, 33, almost 34-inch arms, over 10-inch hand. Like, what's cool about him, and this is what I'm talking about. So somehow doing all that, his athleticism score for 2026 combine, defensive end edges, he's 3rd, but his athleticism score is an 80. His production score, he's 1st, and his production score is a 98. So his total score is 86, and that makes him 1st. So he's literally graded by Next Gen Stats, at least, as number 1. At the same time, 162, 10-yard split. When you start talking about, closing speed, how you start versus how you finish is what I'm getting at, right? And when we start talking about these guys like Cassius Howell, when we start talking about Bain and Bailey and all these numbers are going to get picked apart to the nth degree, right? Like, I think if Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese both went 4.46, was Sonny Styles 1.56 and Reese 1.58 split? Because Cassius Howell was 1.58 right there with him. and he went 4.59 to Bailey's 4.51 162. So like, do you like that little extra bit that you get with that explosive first step, or do you like that little bit you get with that closing speed? And then you got to get put on the tape and say, what's the move off the move? What's the counter move?
Yeah.
What do you do when the offensive line resets? So there's a lot to like about all these guys. And to your point, one of them's going to fall. One of them's going to be this draft's Justin Jefferson. People forget Jalen Reagor was taken with the pick before Justin Jefferson, not the Justin Jefferson in this draft playing defense. The Justin Jefferson who might be the best receiver in the league went 22, a pick behind Jalen Reagor, after a bunch of other dudes that when you look, I mean, we know what happened to Ruggs and a handful of, other things that just don't work out. That's going to happen with one of these guys. And if he ends up falling to the Cowboys, I think there's a lot to like.
I mean, he's got all the moves. He's got the length. He's got the bend. He's got the spin move. He plays so well with his hands. I just think Bailey's the guy on the defensive side of the ball that I'm most convinced is going to be a Pro Bowler. We'll see if he can reach the absolute heights of All Pro and be a Hall of Fame candidate and all that stuff. Like that's tough to predict, but I know Bailey is going to have a very good career, and considering how much the Cowboys need outside linebacker help, that'd be my trade up, dude. There's lots more combine gold to talk about with you. DBs on the field Friday and through the weekend. We're going to be chatting about it with you here on How About Wow.